It was so tough for me during the first 4 miles of this race, I literally asked myself, what am I doing wrong in my training? Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. I thought I had warmed up well enough, but looking back, I warmed up well enough for a slower tactical race. This being a mostly flat 51-mile race, albeit it had about 1,700 feet of climbing in it, I figure I had time and opportunity to tweak my upper end a little more during the race. I again got to see how wrong I was when after the race I was speaking with Clean Power's and age group national mountain bike champion Frank Winters.
I had to go hard to make it long. It's only 50 miles. I'm going to be out there 3 hours. So we tried to go really hard at the start. You know, to really get going, to make it a hard, long race.
So that was you guys?
Me and John, and then this guy named Jay Ferrier.
Oh, Jay, yes, yeah.
Jay just likes to ride hard.
Yeah, he's a triathlete.
He just kept going. He kept pulling. John kept pulling, and I kept pulling, seeing if we could do any damage. So.
Oh yeah, well I was almost the damage. Let's take a moment to talk about the peloton. There were 22 of us, 18 in the 65-69s and 4 in the 70 plus. Now I did have a teammate, but he was in the 70 plus, so basically I was worrying about my race, he was worrying about his, at least for the moment. Of the 18 in my age group, there were 3 teams. Body Concepts in the yellow had 6. Clean Power in the orange, neon green, and black. Frank's team had 2 very strong riders, as did Velo Kings in the predominantly blue design. That's a count of 10, just a little over half the field had teams. That left 8 independents, and that'll come into play later on. Except for the finish, we had the centerline rule throughout most of the course. Well, at least where the centerline existed. Most of the road surface was pretty good. Well, there was this one section that was just a little better than dodging asteroids in that old video game. There were no big climbs, but at 1,700 feet for this 51 miles, there were a lot of punchy climbs. I finally got used to the higher intensity, so now I just needed to conserve my energy. But on this section, it was a bit of a challenge. Now let's back things up a little bit. I didn't catch this on the camera, but recall what Frank was saying, that how they lit it up at the beginning. And that was Frank, John Marengo from Body Concepts, and Jay Ferrier from Velo Kings. That 4 miles of mostly 30-mile-an-hour plus ended with John Marengo going solo. A little while later, Brian Patterson from Velo Kings attacks, gets a gap, and eventually bridges up to John Marengo. Most of the riders were thinking that's a long ways to go for that break to stick. But people started to get nervous. You have that one rider that's now trying to bridge across. So now I'm starting to get nervous. I thought that was one of the Clean Power riders, but it wasn't. It was someone else in an orange jersey. Out of our pack of 22, we now have 7 blockers. The pack is still not reacting to that other rider that took off. That chaser has a big gapped bridge. I figure he's got about 40 seconds that he's got to fill. I see this and I'm waiting for an opening. I hope it comes soon because that chaser is getting farther and farther away and I'm going to have a hard time. So I got the opening, so now I'm taking off. Looking up ahead, that's a big gap, but I'm in for the ride. I look back and the pack is not chasing yet. Right about now, I'm thinking that I wish I would have done more work on my time trialing. Soon thereafter, Body Concepts sent a rider to bridge up to me, with unfortunately the intent just to stay on my wheel as opposed to working with me to get up to the front group. Once I saw that, I slowed down, waited for the pack. Now the question before me is, without any teammates in the 65s, how am I going to bring this break back? First thing I did was look for other people that were also motivated and bring the break back. So right in front of me is New Guy Ken and Eric Salander from Penn Velo. That could be a working group of 3. You'll notice right behind us there are 2 Body Concepts. Obviously Eric in front of me has been putting in the work, so I want to pull through, showing both he and Ken that I'm willing to work with them. So I do just that. Brian and John are strong riders out there. But if we're going to lollygag at 20 miles an hour, They're not going to have to go that fast just to take the first 2 spots on the podium. I finish my pull, and then Ken takes over, which I'm happy to see, but no one is right behind Ken, so that sucks. So now I go behind Ken. I go past him when he's done with his pull, and I'm again hoping that somebody's going to pull through. I'm getting tired. I pull off to the left. Ken's going through again. There's a gap. Matt Peterson from Body Concepts is covering him. 2 more independents come up, but no one is pulling through. Here's the danger of the situation. You go fast, and then people stop working, and then you go real slow. We're at 21 miles an hour. We're lollygagging. We are just over 14 miles into the race. This course is made up of 3 17-mile laps. Technically, there's a lot of time. In actuality, that time can go by real fast. We jumped it right after the start of the second lap. We're on the tailwind section. I'm a nutrition's Tim Davis, who is my second choice to win this race, only because Larry Nolan is here and he's my first choice, has gone to the front to pick up the speed. He is being covered by Velo King's Jay Ferrier. As he slows down, another person has to go. The key to this chase is consistency. I need to be on Eric's wheel, who's right in front of me, but I've got to watch my energy. I've been outputting a lot, and I'm getting a little tired, so I'm back onto Tim's wheel. What should be happening is that other independent riders need to come up in front to work, but that gets into a more complicated version of game theory. They see the situation. They see the decisions others are making. They are calculating the outcome of those decisions that the others are making. They are then going through permutations of decisions that they'll make and the outcomes of that. Then they'll calculate the probability of decisions others will make based on the decisions that they made. That's game theory. As you can see, I've taken the front and I'm just doing what I can to keep the speed up. It helps having a tailwind when my legs are feeling like they are. Now soon we'll be leaving the tailwind section and we're starting to curve and kind of get out of that section. But I'm hoping to at least take it to that little climb that's right before the cut-up section, that little asteroid-like section I was talking about earlier in the previous lap. All this time I've had Kevin Willis from Body Concepts behind me, and he is actually my third choice to win this race. As we hit that aforementioned climb, I'm doing what I can not to fall off and get dropped. We're not even 20 miles into this race. Thank goodness I can see the top. If you see the top of the next little climb, you'll see a couple riders there. I don't know if that's our 2 breakaways or if that's part of the Pro 1-2s that have passed us that have dropped off from the lead group. Eric Salander is again at the front. He's covered though by 2 blockers. We have a lot of independents behind me. Again, game theory. I've jumped to the back end, that cut-up section, and the reason I did that is because, again, I almost went off-road. On some parts, it's like threading a needle not to get sucked into the bad parts. For when you do or get close to it, it's costing you a lot of energy just to get back on. A little further down the line, we've dropped below 20. We're going way too slow. So I noticed that Frank is just behind me to the left. I'm giving him hand signals that I'm going to be taking off in a bit and to be on my wheel. Maybe we can get something going. Something as in speed the pack up so we can bring that breakaway back. I start working my way toward the front. Frank is coming with me. I see an opening and I start to go and I start to ramp up my speed evenly. Frank is still with me. All of a sudden Larry Nolan takes off. Frank goes with him and then they have a Body Concepts on their wheel. Speed goes up. Consternation ensues, and I'm looking for a wheel, and I find a wheel. So now I just gotta hang on. Well, hang on and hope that we can connect with Frank and Larry. My heart rate's at 158 right now, 157 and is dropping a bit, so looks like we're slowing just a bit as we're about to connect. So far this season, I hit a max of about 160, 161. I still think that my maximum heart rate's around 163, 164, but as you can tell, I don't have a lot of room to maneuver with. A little while later, Larry, again with me on his wheel, goes to the front. In speaking with him after the race going back to the cars, he was saying he was trying to bring this back in pieces. That made sense. That's what I tried to do in previous races years past, when I was the only one there, or rather I didn't have any teammates while there were other teams there, and I was trying to bring a break back. What was interesting is that when Larry pulled off, he wasn't looking to get on my wheel. He was looking to get on other people's wheels because he didn't want to be in the position where he was going to have to pull again. I am not looking back at this point, so I'm thinking everybody's right behind me. When I do pull off, Frank's Clean Power teammate is there, and I'm thinking, okay, everything's going well. That is until all the gaps, and now I'm having to do work to get on people's wheel and not get dropped. A little while later, as the speed has slowed down, Larry again goes to the front to take another chunk of real estate back. I get on his wheel, and again the chase is on. So all I'm doing now is looking at his right arm. Once it flicks, I'm pulling through. Again, I look way ahead, and sometimes I could see a couple riders and it seems like it could be our two, or it could be another two from another category's race. If you stop the video, you can see them at the top of this little riser, or you can see somebody there. Right now I'm hoping two things. One, that I don't have a blocker on my wheel, and two, that nobody attacks, then I get dropped. I finally hit the corner, make a hard right, slow up, and looking for someone else to take a pull so I can get some rest. We now have 21 miles to go. Not a lot of time. I've been using a lot of energy to help bring these guys back. I don't have a lot of energy to spare if I'm going to make a move at the end. So I changed things up a little bit. I actually went and spoke with a number of the independents and said, as soon as we hit that corner, the corner that we just passed, that I have commitments from others that we're all going to work together to bring that break back. This seems to be working. I think Eric just took the first pull. Clean Power's taking the next one, waving me through. I am going through to the front. I pull off in front of Clean Power, waiting for the next person to go through, but no one pulls through. So in back of Clean Power is Jay Ferrier. He's one of the blockers. You have a bunch of independents behind him. What are they doing? Nothing. They should pass him, pull through, and continue the chase. I'm running out of gas. Clean Power sees that no one's pulling through, so he's going ahead and taking a pull. Fast forward a little bit, the bugs appear to be worked out, and now we're going a lot faster and we have a lot more independence in the front. Maybe this is going to work after all. We're finishing our second lap, one more to go, and we're hitting the feed zone, and I forgot to mention that in the first lap, I lost one of my water bottles on some hole that I hit. So now I'm trying to grab a water bottle. The neutral feed is up ahead, and I have people in front of me. I'm hoping I get a bottle, and I'm not that great in terms of being able to grab bottles. This is a hot day, and I'm just about out of water. I'm at the point where no water, no finish the race. Okay, so here's the neutral feed. I'm lining up. Everyone's looking for water here, or a lot of people are.
Water! 2 bottles, gotcha, thank you.
Well, look at that. I got some water. And for some more good news, we caught the break. Jumping ahead, we make the final right turn to the finish. It's about 3 miles from the finish now. Since the break, everything's been pretty much muted. No attacks. People just getting ready for the finish. There's a lot of tired legs. Mine are pretty much gone. In fact, about half mile ago, I told my teammate Gilberto in the 70s that I would do what I could to get him in a good position. That in itself was a challenge. So now the speed's going to pick up, and then I'm going to start to drop off. And I'm thinking, okay, that's it. That's my race. I get on a wheel. In fact, that's Brian's wheel, and he was the guy that was out for two laps. So I see there's a lot of real estate between him and the group in front of there, and I figure, again, okay, that's it for the race. I'll just ride his wheel in. While the sprinters are doing the Sprinterpalooza up there, let's see how the 70s are doing. Jumping ahead just a bit, some people from the back are screaming up, and then we have the white jersey, the 70 plus, and Gilberto is right on his wheel. I am pretty much useless at this point, figuring I'm just going to roll on in. Well, as it turns out, everyone saw that everything was going too fast too soon, so they slowed up. That means I get to reconnect. That means I get to rest a little more. That means I get to fool myself thinking that my legs will be good for a major move to win this race. Of course, that all goes out the window as my speed increases by 1 mile an hour. Now, notice on the right-hand side that my teammate Gilberto, he's putting in an attack. Larry Nolan, riding second wheel with Tim Davis on his wheel, sees what's happening. Somebody yells to him that he's a 70 plus. That delays Larry for a little bit, but he goes after him. The white jersey 70 plus is just past me on my left side. My legs, again, are starting to go. Frank is now coming up on my left. That's a good wheel to get. Well, if I could, I would. Things again slow down. I have a chance to reconnect, but you know what? We have the 200 meter sign coming up pretty darn quick. And since I'm not connected yet, that means I must really be tired. If I wasn't, this space on my right side, that'd be a great chance for a run-up. We're gonna have to check Brian's blood. How'd your team turn out? Got the camera on you guys.
Kevin got third.
Okay.
I think that was Frank nipped me at the line, that sucker. Did he really? Brian did a good job.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Brian and John. Oh, you okay? Oh, you're there. Oh, okay.
We needed time information, and I probably needed another guy. I figured we had a chance if we could average like 23 plus, and we kind of ran out of energy in the last.
The first lap was right there.
Yeah, we were 23 miles an hour for 2 laps.
Yeah, Bob told me that we averaged 22.7 for the race.
Yeah.